I'm going to give you a fact or a fiction. You let me know fact or fiction.
Okay.
Justin Gaethje is the biggest test of Khabib's career. Fact or fiction? And I realize I could have said true or false, but fact or fiction sounds classier.
Fact, because of his wrestling. Fact, because of his wrestling. Yeah. I don't know if he's I
Justin,
don't know if Khabib's faced somebody with the wrestling capabilities of Gaethje. He's a better wrestler than Justin Gaethje, but I don't know if he's faced it.
you think Khabib is a better wrestler, like in a pure wrestling match? You think Khabib beats Justin Gaethje?
You
Justin Gaethje's Division One All American. I don't
okay?
know.
All right. So that you saying this makes me realize that you've never heard this story. So Ed Ruth, who is one of the greatest NCAA wrestlers of all time, he fights in Bellator's welterweight division, and he was a three-time NCAA champion at Penn State, and he placed third his freshman year. So he had 3 career losses, and there's been multiple accounts of Khabib fucking destroying him in the training room in a wrestling match at AKA.
But by Daniel Cormier, is he the lead source on these
It was
accounts?
Brendan Schaub. It was Darren Wynn or somebody else, but I mean it was
I'll take their word for it.
yeah.
I
I mean, and that's I don't know. You'd be hard like so in college wrestling there have been four four-time state or four-time national champions, and I think there's only 5 or 6 3-time national champions. So this guy is one of the top 10 greatest NCAA wrestlers of all time, and Khabib was, you know, rumored to be manhandling him. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and he's
okay.
much larger than Khabib too. So yeah, I think Khabib's a better wrestler than Gaethje, but we'll
Because
see.
again, the reason so obviously we're talking about the wrestling within 1 minute of talking about this fight. The wrestling I think is going to determine the outcome of this fight. I think that Gaethje is his biggest test. Gaethje is a defensive wrestler. He's not a very offensive wrestler, which we'll get to in a minute. What I think the ideal strategy would be to beat Khabib if you're Gaethje, but it's gonna be, can Khabib land the takedown or not? Because if Khabib can't land the takedown, which I think is unlikely, I think he will take down Gaethje. Gaethje's the better striker, right? There, we're in agreement there
Yeah,
that Gaethje's the better striker of the two. I think if you were Justin Gaethje, I think you would try to beat Khabib at his own game. I think you try to offensively wrestle with Khabib, which he already has said in the media that he's not going to do. But again, people say a lot of things in the media that they're not going to do, and they end up doing it anyway because strategy and gamesmanship. But I think if you have the wrestling credentials that Gaethje has, even though he wasn't an offensive wrestler and he was more of a defensive wrestler, you got to try to take it to Khabib. Khabib's going to come forward with pressure, and you have to do something to negate that pressure.
yeah, but I mean, if you're saying so, there's different. If he's coming forward to, and you're saying that that's still defensive wrestling. Like
I
offensive,
so
so offensive. So you're saying that he should be out there, not backing down from him, pinning him against the cage, going forward,
yeah,
actively
yeah.
shooting from a distance for takedowns. That's not going to work. He's not
I
going to
I don't
take
know if he
him.
should be I don't know if he should be shooting from the open, like hitting an open shot in the middle of the cage. I think he should do what Khabib wants to do. He should follow his strikes in and look to engage behind his striking to then work his own takedowns. I don't think he should be like, look what John Kavanaugh said about the Conor fight. They worried so much about Conor defending takedowns, they came away from their own offensive game plan. And
Yeah,
I think if
because
Gaethje is preparing for this fight thinking only defense, only defense, only defense, you're taking something away from yourself.
yeah, I
You need to do something to stop the takedowns besides just sprawling on the takedown. You know what I mean? Like
so I
there needs to be
think
an element of forward.
I think Gaethje's style can most aptly be described as like a modernized version of Chuck Liddell's style, right? Because look at these guys that he's lost to. He lost to Cerrone and he lost to Eddie Alvarez, didn't he? So, right? So those guys, like, he's just very stubborn. Like, he's a better wrestler than both of those guys. Much better wrestler.
Justin Gaethje in his entire UFC career has been on the bottom position for like 15 seconds, like
Yeah.
literally 15
Well,
seconds.
that's gonna.
And in both cases, it was Michael Johnson clipped him and knocked him down.
Yeah.
And in the Eddie fight, he was like exhausted and injured, or not injured. He was exhausted and hurt, and Eddie like tripped him down.
That
and got right back up in both cases.
that stat is going to change fucking dramatically this weekend.
I agree.
However,
but it doesn't give us a lot to go on to see
doesn't,
how
but
he's
he
gonna
doesn't take
work
people
to get
down.
himself back up.
He's a sprawl and brawl kind of guy, and he is if he can keep this fight on the feet, that's where his best chances to win is to keep this fight on the feet. Obviously, if he ends up on top of Khabib, I don't know if Khabib's ever been taken down. I don't think he has been. But if he ends up on top of him, it's pretty safe to say that he's going to be in a very good situation. But just keep staying off of his back, because if Khabib gets on, like, you're not getting up.
What we know what Khabib is going to do. Khabib does it in every fight. He's going to come forward, going to push to the cage, use the cage to set up his takedown, get on top, and just start grinding it out and doing his damage. And he does it every single fight, and people can't stop him. And that's very impressive that when you know exactly what a person is going to do, you can't stop it. He's a very impressive fighter. I agree that that's what he's going to do to Gaethje. He's going to attempt to do that to Gaethje. We don't have any sample size to see how Gaethje fights off of his back. He was straight up. In both times we've seen him in the bottom position in the UFC, he was straight back up.
Yeah.
I don't know how he's going to do that against Khabib.
We'll see.
I think what's going to happen is Gaethje in the Tony fight, his most recent fight, was much more technical, and he was still throwing power shots, but he wasn't throwing wide, wild, looping shots, and he wasn't taking huge chances. But even if you watch the shots that he landed against Tony, there's still openings there for counter wrestling by Khabib. He's still going to be able to go under some of those shots and hit the takedown. So I think the takedown is inevitable. The big question mark is, can Gaethje get himself back up and have enough time on the feet to do enough damage to win the fight? I personally don't think he will.
Yeah, I don't think
he will.
Khabib
will win.
It's regardless of what we think, it's impossible to bet against Khabib.
I know. You just can't bet against Khabib. You just can't. I mean, the guy's 28-0. Like I just said, you know what he's going to do every fight, and he does it successfully every fight. I don't think it's a good bet to bet against him. Maybe if there's crazy odds, I'll throw $5 on it, but don't bet your house on Gaethje.
Khabib's going to win, probably by decision.
I agree that Khabib will win. Part of me thinks it'll be a decision, but I don't like to agree with you on both accounts. So I'll just say Khabib's going to win, and I think he'll finish him in the 4th.
Okay.